It is 9:30 on the day of our Lord Sunday. This is the Pinfall podcast. And I said I was going to take these off earlier, but I didn't. I am Liz, your lovely host. And I am joined by your other lovely host, Mr. Marcus.
Hello. It is me.
So today we are going to talk about the NXT Takeover in your house, so on and so forth. Very long title for a show. But the NXT Takeover pay-per-view event that happened started around 7, so about 2.5 hours ago. And this will be a bit of a different podcast because neither Mark, you, nor I watch NXT that much. We only started watching NXT, I think, a month ago, maybe.
Yeah. We were not really into the whole new wrestlers kind of thing. Thought it'd be much less experienced, but I think we've turned around on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that we kind of realized was there's some wrestlers we don't know, but not all of them are like, because NXT is kind of their training brand, and there are a lot of inexperienced looking people out there that are just kind of starting to get into the groove of everything. But there are still some main people, I guess, like Charlotte Flair and Finn Balor. So that makes it a little easier to watch at the very least. I think we started watching SmackDown and Raw, and suddenly we were like, this is enough new people. Yeah. We can't do any more.
Even Raw was a little harder for us to get into, but
Raw was an undertaking. We had to, sort of, no pun intended. Here we are now, all three markets. They're heading all of them. So this was a bit of a different sort of pay-per-view event, I think. There wasn't a ton of fluff in the middle. It was just match. Yeah. One after the other.
No promos.
No promos at all, except for like your teasers, I guess, before everything started. We started tonight with our 6-woman tag event.
Well, before that, we had the Code Orange performance. Oh,
yeah, we did. I did not realize that the lead singer was a woman.
I didn't either.
Yeah. It's a very androgynous voice, but it was interesting to see that because I didn't know what was going on at first when they had musicians, I guess. Because I didn't piece together that was their theme song.
It was a little awkward because there was no audience and the cameras just stayed on them the whole time. I think they should have cut to like clips of wrestlers or something. It would have matched more with the brand, but
or they could have like done like a walkout or something, or even we could have heard, because I know the NXT trainees were all there, so I don't know why they didn't you couldn't hear them screaming like you normally can.
They should have, or they could have had like all of the wrestlers come out and like had a little like, I don't know, like
a face off.
Yeah, kind of. I feel like they don't really do that in wrestling, and maybe it would like make things feel a little more showy.
Yeah, I kind of get that. It was still cool to see the whole band, especially because I think they stayed for the entire performance.
Yeah, we saw them in the audience at some point later on.
The one guy, who I think is like the other lead, was very scary. He was just standing there. Kind of reminded me of the creepy person at the wedding in Parks and Rec. The creepy cousin that April has, or whoever is like standing in the corner, and Ben's scared to talk to him.
I didn't watch that episode of Parks and Rec.
You watched it with me.
Wait, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, no. I was thinking of like a real wedding, not like the house wedding that they had.
No, yeah, they're very impromptu wedding.
Gotcha.
So let's jump into the 6-woman tag event. That was Shotzi Blackheart, who is someone, with Tegan Nox and Mia Yim, who we love Mia Yim, and we're starting to love Tegan Nox because she's super cute. Versus Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai, and the one and only Candice LeRae.
Yeah, and then Shotzi, Tegan, and Mia won that tag team. I'm not a huge fan of Mia Yim.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm not a huge fan of her gimmick. Her fighting's decent. I don't know. Just I haven't really come around to her. Tegan Nox also was not impressed in this match at all. She was not really selling her hits at all. Her punching was really bad.
I noticed that was there was a lot of problems with like people selling their hits, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It was very like slappy and kind of discoordinated. It felt like they were trying to do something that was like really cool, and then it just became this awkward like Candice LeRae and Mia Yim ended up going off the stage fighting and never coming back.
Yeah.
Because when they came back eventually at the match later on with Keith Lee and Johnny Gargano, they were wearing different things. So like they clearly had stopped fighting at some point.
I was surprised by how much I was impressed by Shotzi. I forget her last name.
Yeah.
She
Black.
She fought like she fought really well. Like her hits looked real, and everything, like all of her stunts were excellent. She was probably my favorite of the entire match. Maybe Candice LeRae also, but mostly Shotzi was my favorite out of that match.
Yeah, Shotzi had that really cool scorpion kick, like a no against Dakota Kai, which was. I think a lot of the aerial stuff is easier to sell than punching someone, because you know what a punch is supposed to look like. You don't quite know what like a drop kick should look like. Like I've seen people get punched way more than I've seen them get drop kicked before.
And there's ways to sort of prepare for like a suplex than you can a punch.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just I feel like wrestlers tend to do like the whole like slapping thing more than like an elbow or a punch. I haven't seen anyone do like a real punch in a while. Like a lot of stuntmen do that. I'm surprised they haven't tried it.
I think because WWE is more geared towards like stunts now.
I did hear something where closed fist punching is banned or something like that.
That makes sense.
Or was banned.
I think they're trying to avoid a second season of Dark Side of the Ring at this point. So
well, it's inevitable. They said they had millions of sources for their content. So
one thing, a term that you coined was the nega Jeff. When Blackheart went ass first into, I think it was Candice.
So to anyone watching, Jeff Hardy's thing is jumping off of a high platform, doing a flip, and landing ass first on top of somebody. Now, the nega Jeff Hardy, is when you do the opposite of that, when you start lower than your opponent, or on the same level, jump and do a flip, and land ass into somebody as they're standing. And I really don't like the move. I think it's very pointless. It's just like throwing your body into somebody. It doesn't sell it for me.
Shotzi Blackheart actually had a really cool German suplex move where she got Candice into submission, but like she was face first onto the mat, so like her shoulders were kind of going over her.
Yeah.
And as someone who loves the German suplex, that was awesome, because like it wasn't just like hitting someone per se, it was also like twisting their arm muscles over them.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice is that it kind of feels like, because Raquel Gonzalez really didn't do much, like she didn't come back to my mind a lot during when I was writing my notes and stuff. She had like a couple of moves that were so-so, but like I mentioned at one point, she kind of reminds me of like NXT's version of Sonya Deville, but she doesn't sell any of her moves, it feels like. A lot of her moves felt very like she was like punching, but you could see her arm going over their shoulder, around their neck. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, there was no contact. And it kind of sucked because, like, they built up the whole Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, like, friendship and how, like, they were trying to take on people together and get, like, what they deserved and stuff like that. And then they just kind of fell so flat.
Yeah, I think Raquel had a Cesaro moment in this, where when the ref wasn't looking, she stormed into the ring, kicked somebody, and then ran out.
But then the ref was looking for a lot of that, though, and he was just like,
yeah.
That's not legal.
Yeah. Wasn't the best fight of the night, but, I mean, it was the first one, so.
True. We then actually kind of got the payoff, which I thought was more than worth the price of admission, with Damian Priest and Balor.
Yeah.
Which was one of my favorite fights of the night because those two men know how to hit each other.
Yeah. I think the highlight of that fight was when Damian Priest was knocked onto the stairs, and they showed it 50 times.
That was so bad.
I was also impressed with just, like... impressed with how close they managed to get to the 3 count before they kick out. Like, that's complete sarcasm, because I hate when they get just as close to 3 as possible, just so they can extend the fight just that much longer. One reason I like Drew McIntyre a lot is because he kicks out at 1.
Love my boy. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's one of those things where it's like, I feel like kicking out at 1 kind of like gets not only into your opponent's head, but also into the fan's head, because you're kind of like, oh, they just like got dragged around and suddenly they're still able to move their body after 1 second of being in a pin.
Yeah.
I really liked that. First of all, like, my complaint is always, you see these guys take so many like really tough hits, and then you never see a bruise. Like, I get bruises all the time. They don't heal in a handful of days. I'll get a bruise, it'll be there, and it'll change colors for like a week, and then who knows? Well,
they probably take like ice baths immediately after the taping.
But one thing we did get to see was Finn Balor had the imprint of the stairs.
Yeah.
In his poor little shoulder. At first I was like, it looked like someone like bit him or something. And then I saw like the little star pattern and I was like, oh no, that's blood. But yeah, I really like that. It was kind of a rare move, I felt like, from the writers, I guess, because a lot of times, like we're seeing with Drew McIntyre, when they're hyping up a fight weeks prior, because I think the first time I watched NXT was when Finn Balor found out that Damian Priest was the one who attacked him, and Damian Priest put a folding chair on Finn's neck while he laid on the mats. And unlike what they're doing in Raw right now, where it's like every week I get to see Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley hurling insults at one another, we didn't see Finn Balor once after his initial contact with Damian. So I don't think anyone kind of knew what to expect from this fight. I kind of had a feeling that Finn had to win.
Yeah, it would have been
apparently been going on a while.
It would have been weird having Damian win, but I mean, that's one of those fights where they could have sold Damian winning. Although it's like the Edge Randy Orton fight that's coming up. Like, Orton attacked Edge's wife. You're not going to have him win that fight. Like how Finn was attacked by Damian, you're not going to have Finn lose that fight.
And his last contact with Damian was Damian putting a chair on his neck, which is essentially a loss in my book.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good fight. There was a lot of good selling for the punches and stuff. And was kind of believable. Like, Finn looked so tired, and then he kept kicking out, and I was like, oh, okay, he's like not going down. Also, there was a lot of physicality in it. I mean, Finn, first of all, came out like a speeding bullet, immediately going after Priest. And just like all of the times where like Finn would get up on the ropes and Damian would hurl him to the ground, or when Finn kicked him into the stairs and we had to watch that 4,000 times, I was like, oh, they're getting a little dangerous. And then like when Finn double stomped on Priest's chest and like fell over. I really enjoyed that fight. I thought that was a really good payoff. And both of them looked very tired.
Yeah.
My only real complaint on that end is that Damian Priest plays so well. The moment he started losing, I felt like I was watching Three Stooges. Like, I think Finn slapped him or something, and he was just like, and like fell off to the side, like his legs were like shaking, and I was like, what is that about? I don't get that.
I personally was not super impressed by the fight. I mean, it was great, but looking back, I can't remember so much about the fight. Like, I remember the stair thing. I remember the fact that I feel lied to, because I was told that those stairs are like 200, 300 pounds, and Damian Priest just kicked one, like slid one over like it was nothing.
Well, he's strong. He's got big boy muscles.
But also, he removed the top, and it was like completely hollow. Unless they have ones that are specifically meant to be thrown.
Like props.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you had one complaint, which was that Finn Balor looked like he was trying to cut off circulation to his arm.
Yes, he was wearing an armband on his bicep that looked extremely tight on his arm. And you even said his arm looked like it was losing circulation at some point.
It looked so red. I was like, can he really fight like that? I mean, maybe there's something to it. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't feel it as much.
It was definitely not my favorite fight of the night, but it's also not my least favorite. It was entertaining, but I feel like it doesn't compare to the fights that came after that.
I think one part that I did really appreciate was that Drew McIntyre is like one of my biggest like examples to go back to, but he it's always very thrilling when he fails to Claymore kick someone multiple times and then finally gets that good kick in.
Mm-hmm.
And Finn tried to do his coup de grace from the top rope multiple times, and every time Damian would like come up and like grab his little body. And I'm glad that he finally, the way he pinned Priest was by being able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that always feels like a very nice payoff at the end of it.
Yeah.
But after Mr. Balor and Mr. Priest, and Finn's rightful winning, we got to see Johnny Gargano and poor Keith Lee.
That fight, I personally love this fight a lot, especially the moment when Keith Lee sent Johnny Gargano through the plexiglass wall. That was amazing. And they did exactly what I was hoping somebody would do with the new plexiglass barrier, is just send someone right through it.
I just feel bad for Keith Lee because, first of all, Johnny Gargano's whole thing is like poking him in the eyes.
Yeah.
And in this current day and age with a pandemic going on and we're not allowed to touch our eyes, watching a stranger do that, not only with his hands, but with keys that he shoved down his crotch prior to the fight starting. That felt a little... Oh.
It was also amazing when Gargano was like going to get the keys, like during the fight when he was pulling them out. He stuck his hand in his spandex. It took him like a couple minutes to get it out. Like, how much is in there that you need to actually search for keys that are stuffed in there? How much do you have going on down there? The keys can easily be hidden.
It's just so tight. I'd like dig around a little bit. It was. I really enjoy watching Gargano fight Keith Lee because he's so small. He's so
Mm.
small, and Keith Lee is so massive that Johnny like jumped up on his back, and Keith was like, "Okay, I guess we're doing this."
I love fights that are mismatched weight classes because it forces the outclassed opponent to get creative. And Johnny Gargano got creative in that fight, albeit he fought a little dirty, but it was very creative.
Um, I I also think that Johnny's kind of fun because like he sells being scared really well. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that come out and like, for example, like Zelina Vega. She comes out like all cocky and she does cocky really well.
Mm-hmm.
But she has one emotion, like one facial emotion for scared. Like,
Yeah.
but Johnny, like he gets scared and like either he kind of gets scared and like fights harder, or he gets scared and he runs to the door that he locked, trying to get out.
There's
It's like, okay.
there's the John Cena scared, which is Selena Vega's reaction.
Yeah.
And then there's the Sami Zayn scared, which is what Johnny Gargano did, which is a very emotive person who can express a lot of emotions very well, and their reaction feels pretty genuine. Like Sami Zayn does his emotes very well.
Yeah. I like that there reaches a point where he's either scared enough that he's still gonna fight, or scared like I have to get out of here because Keith Lee is really mad at me now and I have shoved keys into his eyes, so I've got to do something.
Yeah.
I would have really liked to see Johnny win that, just because while Keith Lee hasn't, and that's awesome for him, I do think that there would have been like a very like Seth Rollins-y spark in him where all of a sudden he's like, I have the title, I'm the greatest.
Yeah. And I don't even want to imagine what like the creepy promos would have been for that if he got it. But I want to just give a shout out to the Keith Lee's Black Lives Matter that he had written on his spandex. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was like one of the most entertaining fights of the whole event. Because it was more than just a fight. It was a show.
I could have done without Mia Yim and Candice LeRae coming out again.
Yeah, but then how else do you have Johnny Gargano pulling the whole key trick?
I guess that's true. Because, I mean, the one thing I really liked about it the first time around last Monday, or last Wednesday, was that then we got like a mixed tags match where Mia Yim slapped the shit out of Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Which we didn't kind of get to see this time. It was just kind of Mia Yim like, come back here, Candice. Let's go back inside. But Keith Lee obviously pinned Johnny to stay. I think it's the NXT US champion.
I thought it was North American champion.
Oh yes, that's what it was. Funny enough, we had the same ref from the Sonya and Lacey fight.
The one who got injured.
Yeah, the one who had his shin kicked and he was like writhing on the ground in pain. But this time, Johnny got thrown off of Keith like twice into the ref, and the ref was just like, "Oh no, oh god, okay." It's like, how hard can Sonya Deville truly kick?
Was it Sonya? I think it was Lacey.
No, Sonya kicked her leg out, and that's what got the ref in the shin.
Okay.
So after Johnny and Keith, we got to watch Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream. Which, I'll start this off by spoiling it if anyone hasn't seen it. Let's just say, thank God Adam Cole won.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hella good fight.
Yeah.
Probably the best of the night, but we'll get to that later on once we talk about, once we talk about the, fight of the night. But, let's address the elephant in the room that is Velveteen Dream's tendencies.
Tendency is a word you want to use.
Let's hope it's not a tendency, but for those who don't know, Velveteen Dream, he messages were exposed.
He was accused of it. It is alleged. It has not been proven.
I believe I saw the screenshots for it of his text. I mean, we saw the text, but we don't know like the backstory behind the person,
or if they were faked. I mean, again, I'm not saying that they were. I don't want to say that like, oh, I'm sure he wasn't doing that, because I believe that he did it, but also for legal reasons, you do have to say that it was alleged.
Yeah, allegedly, Velveteen Dream was texting a minor, very sexual stuff. So it was hard to root for anybody but Adam Cole in this.
Especially when Adam Cole was supposed to be the heel, so you're like...
Until Dexter Lumis showed up.
Dexter Lumis, oh my god.
The whole highlight of this fight was when one of the Undisputed Era knocks down a chair outside the ring, and after, for some reason, throwing all of the chairs just into the ring for no reason whatsoever.
Adam, like, destroyed his body.
We'll get to that. One of the chairs gets beside the ring, and we just see it slip right under the ring. And we're like, oh god, what just happened? And then suddenly, Dexter Lumis's head just pops right out of the apron.
It was just like, he was down here, and all of a sudden he was like...
Yeah, that's one reason why Dexter Lumis might be my favorite NXT fighter. He is just full of stuff like that. I love him.
It's so weird, because, like, he does really look like... He looks like a Nazi.
He does. He's got, like, the whole blonde-haired, blue-eyed, like...
And, like, the very, like, chiseled jaw.
He looks like he'd fight Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
But the thing is that he's definitely becoming one of the heels that I like, I think. If you could call him a heel, because he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
He just does very nice illustrations.
Oh,
when asked about his like, intentions for NXT Takeover, he during the last NXT match, the interviewer asked him what he was hoping to see happen, I guess, at NXT Takeover. And he just pulls out an easel with a bunch of Sharpies, and they cut away and they cut back, and he's done this whole lovely little illustration of him driving a car with the 3 active members of the Undisputed Era tied up in the back. Which, you know what? Good for him. He kind of got his way.
Yeah.
Because he did end up taking the 2 members that were there away in his car. The car that they drove there, actually.
Where'd they go? Who knows? Hopefully to Raw.
We're never going to find out.
But let's talk about Adam Cole and his damage.
Let's go to the start first. So Adam Cole comes out in his souped up truck, which, yeah, whatever. And for some reason, Velveteen Dream decided to abandon his whole shtick of like the suave, Prince-like sex magnet, I guess. I don't know.
I think Negan is a pretty big sex magnet.
So he comes out as Negan, I guess. It was just like a very weird... I don't know. But he comes out as Negan for God only knows what reason. Adam Cole tells him he's not going to fight him until he puts his bat down because he wants to fight him like a man. Joke was kind of on Adam Cole because Adam Cole went running scared for most of this first half of the fight.
And then used a fire extinguisher on him.
Yeah, which, again, like you said, like, fire extinguishers are bad to use on people, but also, if he is a pedophile, then maybe it's fine.
Allegedly
pedophile, sorry.
Yeah.
But, so Adam Cole ends up, he tries to drive away, actually, at one point. And then Dream attacked his car with the bat that he was told to dispose of. And then Adam Cole ends up, like, splayed out on top of the car while Velveteen Dream, like, kind of punches him and stuff. And then Velveteen Dream gets a ladder out of nowhere, gets to the top of the ladder, and jumps down onto Adam Cole, smashing his back into the windshield.
No. Adam tried to climb the ladder, and then
Oh, he was
Velveteen
pushed off.
knocked him off of it.
Man, I had like a whole thing in my head too. But so, anyways, one way or another, he lands back first in a windshield.
Yeah. And then we see the glass in his arm, and it's bleeding. It seemed very hard to fake. My theory is that was sugar glass, and he did get cut by the sugar glass, and was surprised by it, but played it off really well.
I don't think, because the thing is, like, I kind of get it when, like, there have been times where people get, like, really beaten up and, like, you see blood coming out of their mouth or something, or with Rey Mysterio when he had his eye, like, crushed by the stairs.
Yeah.
That's a very easy way to fake a blood packet. It was, like, one source of blood. That was it. But Adam Cole, like, looked at his arm. There were spots of blood starting to form and, like, come down his arm. And then eventually when he finally got off, there was more blood, and some of it had started drying in, like, the rustyish color that blood dries in. So unless they have somehow managed to, like, special effects, I can't not believe that was real.
Like I said, could have been an accident with a sugar glass. I can't imagine that WWE would have him fall on an actual hood, not like some kind of stunt hood.
Yeah. I think more so my point is that one way or another, he definitely was bleeding.
Yeah.
That was the joke, is that, like, we were talking and his two Undisputed Era members run up to his truck and, like, start throwing stuff out the back, and I was like, oh, they're just looking for a first aid kit. But no, they just threw like 20 chairs out of the trunk at the head of the cab.
For no reason at all.
It didn't help anyone really, outside of the fact that eventually when Adam pinned Velveteen Dream, it was into the chairs, which I'm sure is a much worse landing than landing on the...
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. It was weird. I'm glad that we got to see Dexter Lumis, because I knew he was supposed to show up at some point. And I'm glad that Velveteen Dream lost, because in my opinion, I think that this was the WWE's way of responding to the controversy and kind of getting him off their back for a little bit, because Adam Cole had prior made an arrangement with, I think it's the guy who's in charge of talent. I know he's on the Wikipedia for WWE somewhere, but I think he's in charge of the talent. I think he's head of casting. He made an agreement with this guy saying, like, if I win this match, Velveteen Dream cannot challenge me for this title. As long as I have it, he can't challenge me. Adam Cole has now had the title for 372 days, so he's had it for a little over a year. And probably in his hardest won fight, he ended up beating Dream, so now Dream has no opportunity to get that title until he loses it, which doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. And I think that may have been the WWE's way of being like, all right, we can't really get rid of him because this is alleged, but this is probably bad press for us.
Yeah.
You know? So maybe that was their way of being like, oh, go over there. Just stay by catering for a little while, and we'll call you back when we're ready. Like what they're doing with Jackson Riker, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a really intense fight. I don't know where they had it, because it was supposed to be a, what was it, like, backyard brawl or backlot brawl was what they called it. But it looked like it was like on like a weird old like 50s like movie set with like all these like facades of buildings.
And like the horse posts. Did you notice those?
Yes, and like, because when Velveteen Dream was like walking through like trying to find Adam Cole, like trying to open the fake doors and stuff, and all of a sudden like you see a silhouette of someone crouched on the ground. You're like, is that Adam Cole?
He was like standing in a window, like just a silhouette. Turns out it wasn't him.
It was
probably.
It was
like,
a very weird fight, but I am kind of glad that they had like a no rules brawl.
Yeah.
Because they don't do that very often anymore. Because it's not safe.
Felt more of like a cinematic fight than.
Yeah, and like there was blood, which I guess is kind of wrong for me to be like hyped up about, but it looked like real fighting.
And you know what my favorite part about the Loomis bit was? he was waiting under that ring for the entire fight. He was just laying under there for probably like 15 to 20 minutes, maybe longer during setup. I like to imagine during setup, before any of the crew or cast was even there, he was still under there just like getting into character.
Just like twiddling his thumbs a little bit, like
Giving like the wide-eyed stare that Dexter Loomis always gives.
he has like a front camera open with like the flash on, like like, is this good yet? I really do love him. I think his lack of expression is kind of fun, because like we got to watch him. I don't remember who he choked out. I think it was one of the Undisputed Era guys.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the last time.
It was Strong. Roderick Strong.
Okay, so yeah, because he choked him out just while sitting there, like.
And then started petting his head.
He's like, sleep now, it's okay.
I want to see him in Raw. I want to see him, like, Raw or SmackDown, as, like, either Seth Rollins' crew or one of the Wyatt family.
Ooh, that'd be cool, especially as, like, one of Seth Rollins, because he's very clean cut. Wyatt family is very, like, underground. And we don't actually know if Wyatt family's ever coming back.
Yeah.
As much as I think I would love it to see it.
Mm.
But I think that I have my feelings that Finn Balor's probably going to be in NXT for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Because I think he's kind of a really big face for them. In the same way that I think Adam Cole will probably always be in NXT, as well as like anyone from Undisputed Era. But that being said, I think Dexter Loomis actually has kind of a good chance of possibly ending up in Raw at some point, because he's a really recognizable face, but he doesn't get a lot of time on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be a good person, like, because Matt Riddle was like, he wasn't like their main guy. He was not a Johnny Gargano, but he was really talented and people liked watching him fight. So they put him on a bigger stage by bringing him to SmackDown.
Yeah, what I assume the thought process is, they're trying to bring new people, or like new types of people, into the two higher brands, and Matt Riddle was definitely different from everyone that they have, and Dexter Loomis would be even more different than anybody that they have right now. Like, just imagine Dexter Loomis versus like Alistair. That would be amazing to see, and just give Dexter Loomis like maybe a year, he'll probably be in Raw or SmackDown.
Not sure like my heterosexuality could handle that. But yeah, no, I think it's sort of like, I guess I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel like there are people that they need to keep there for the sake of like the recognition,
Mm-hmm.
and like just being noticeable, I guess. And I think that they've got those people that are super noticeable, like Finn and Adam Cole.
Charlotte Flair.
Charlotte Flair is still offering her face for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there are people like Loomis and Matt Riddle who are definitely really talented and definitely fun to watch, and definitely could be used on a bigger stage. Because also Dexter Loomis is a pretty technical fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think bringing technical fighters over to SmackDown so that Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak have like people to fight that have similar styles could be really cool. Plus, then it gives the WWE more of a fighting chance against like things like UFC and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like they're in more need of heels, because in Raw you have the Rollins crew, you have the Zelina Vega crew, which is dwindling because they just lost Austin Theory to Rollins. SmackDown, you have Bray Wyatt, you have who else is a heel in SmackDown? Like a definite heel.
In theory, the Forgotten Sons, but Bray's gone right now, so
Yeah. I think he'd be perfect as a heel in SmackDown.
yeah, he would be actually, because I mean, I guess Cesaro and Shinsuke are heels, but they're a tag team, so that doesn't really count.
Imagine
AJ Styles.
imagine him versus like Daniel Bryan, or him versus The Miz, or him on The Miz TV. They
Just sitting there. The Miz wouldn't know what to do.
yeah, like they just try and talk to him, and he's just sitting there like blank faced, wide eyed.
I love him. But moving on from Mr. Cole's lovely, lovely win against alleged pedophile Velveteen Dream. Also, by the way, Adam Cole used. I think he. I want to look this up before I say anything. Because I think he used. Oh no! Okay, so he used the move twice. One time it failed because Dream kind of got the upper hand on him, but he used his Panama Sunrise move to finally defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was like same thing as like before with like Finn, where I was like, use your thing, use your move.
Yeah.
And he finally got that, so that was awesome. So let's move on to the second to last match, which was Tommaso versus Karrion Kross, and it did not go how I wanted in the slightest.
Very disappointing fight. I mean, the fighting was like, it was good, but we didn't get the full potential that it had. This would have been the perfect, like this whole event, I've been wanting somebody to smash through that set, smash through the door, smash through the window or something. We didn't get that. I'll talk about it more once we get to the triple threat. Is it called?
Yeah.
Seeing these two massive guys would be perfect to smash through that door, either as an entrance or somebody being thrown into it. But it would have been perfect. Maybe Keith Lee being smashed into it, but this would have been even more perfect, and we didn't get that. And Karrion Kross beat Tommaso, which was disappointing in and of itself, but I mean, you can't always have the faces win.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, as much as I know you wanted to see that happen, of course, Karrion has his whole intro.
Yeah.
Which is his beautiful, beautiful wife singing or whatever. I don't even know if I've ever seen her wrestle. I think she is a wrestler. I know her name is Scarlett, and I know that's not her actual name. So I don't know if she's like full-time just his I don't want to say attachment, but
entourage,
I guess. But it definitely would have been him, and I feel like Tommaso Ciampa has like almost kind of like a zen, like relaxed, kind of Aleister Black approach to things, where I couldn't see him bursting through the door. I think the only person I could have seen in my head bursting through the door would have been maybe Damian Priest or maybe Keith Lee, but those were so early in the show that they probably wouldn't have wanted to destroy one of their main set pieces.
Like I said, even just somebody being thrown into it.
True, and that could have definitely happened in the three-way match, but that being said, so Karrion Kross comes out with his whole song and dance, and Scarlett was looking lovely as always. Karrion was looking so scary, almost all the time, those eyes. It would have been, in my opinion, a lot cooler if it was a cage match. Yeah. I think they had the room to do that tonight, and I don't think they did, and it's kind of upsetting because that's where Tommaso would have shined, and Karrion, I think, would have been equally matched one way or the other if it were in something like the Timothy Thatcher, Matt Riddle kind of deal, where it's literally just brawn. Like, you cannot get out of the ring.
Mm-hmm. I think overall it was just a very forgettable fight.
I have my hesitation saying that it was forgettable because I personally don't think it was. I just kind of wish that Tommaso had gotten some more hits in. I think that he deserved a lot more since his whole thing was like he's been waiting to fight Karrion after Karrion attacked him, which seems to be a running theme in NXT, by the way. But Ciampa has so much technical skill that I think it's weird. He really didn't get to use a ton of it. A lot of what happened was Karrion got the upper hand really quickly and destroyed Ciampa.
Yeah. Which isn't the kind of fight you want at a pay-per-view event like this.
Right.
That's something that's like a lead-up fight. You during an event like this, you want something that's more evenly matched. Even Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano was more evenly matched than this.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole thing was that Ciampa had just come back from... I think he had his neck repaired.
I think his back or something.
I think they said that something about his neck had just like recently been like replaced, essentially. Which, first of all, sounds horrifying to be to the point in your life where something hurts bad enough in your neck or spine area that you have to get it replaced.
Yeah.
But immediately Cross ended up throwing Ciampa into the mat. And it looked like he hit his spine into the edge of the mat, but the announcer said it was his neck.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were just saying that, because, like...
I think they said it was his shoulder blades.
Oh, okay. But Cross just seemed to... Ciampa looked tired for a lot of the match, and Cross seemed to really be, like... Because he runs on, like, the blood of his enemies, essentially, it seemed like.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool to see Ciampa... Because Cross was on the other side of the ropes. Ciampa was in the ring. And Ciampa pulled Cross by, like, his neck and, like, his, like, collarbone, basically, into the ring. And you and I both flinched for this because he went head first into the mat. It was, like, over the second rope, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And at first there, I was like, oh, okay. Now he's kind of got that step up. That's what he needed.
He landed right on the top of his head.
Yeah.
The little baby bump.
It looked so painful. And that's the stuff that always worries me because I'm like, oh, everything could be fun and games. And then you, like, land on your head and it goes into your shoulders and suddenly your spine is, like, broken and you're dead or you're paralyzed. And now we're not having fun anymore. And there goes my pay-per-view event. And then this becomes a very different podcast. Like, rest in peace, Karrion Kross.
But then Karrion Kross turned it around.
Yes, he did. By getting poor Tommaso Ciampa in a chokehold until Ciampa died, basically. Until he passed out.
Yeah, couldn't move anymore. I think this fight is best compared to when you're walking into a room and you forget why you walked in there. The moment you forget why you walked in there is when Ciampa started fighting back. But then you remember why you were in there and you continue what you're doing. That's when Kross just got him in the chokehold.
And one thing that we can say, at the very least, one of the most lovable moments is that his wife is just so into it with him.
Mm-hmm. Who?
Like,
she looked... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that she's like the same way that I was so happy that, like, Daniel Bryan was, like, sitting on the side of the ring, like, cheering Drew Gulak on, like, just
like,
slamming his hands down. I was, like, so excited. I was like, best friends, we love that. And his wife was just standing there, sort of dancing a little bit, but, like, also she was just, like, had her hands on the ring, like, yelling and stuff. And I was like, we love a healthy relationship between couples.
Yeah.
You go get your goals, girl.
Even though he probably has some kind of mental, like... something wrong with him.
But you know, that speaks to her strength, because if you can date a man that looks that scary when he's just vibing, you can do anything. She could fight him, I am sure of that.
I love the fake scar that she had on.
She looked so good tonight. She looks so good every night, but her hair was, like, extra, like, silvery gray tonight.
Mm.
I think she just got it done recently, because it definitely did not look like that last Wednesday. I think she had blonde last time.
She had extensions in this time.
Yeah. But she looked so cool, and I love her so much, and he might be terrifying, but you know what? They're going to bring the end of the world together, and I respect that. I love healthy couple goals.
unlike Bobby Lashley and his wife.
That'll be like a tomorrow night conversation.
Yeah.
But still very confused about the fact that she's married to Rusev. We can talk about that then, but the fact that we found that out and I was just sitting there like...
And then it'll come up again next Sunday during Backlash.
It better. It better come up again. Because if it doesn't, I'm probably going to be taking a shot on camera. And I know that for a fact because... we'll talk about this at the end of the episode.
We agreed to a shot. I forget what it was.
We agreed to a shot first if Drew McIntyre loses his title. We agreed that I will take a shot. But we also agreed to something else, and I'm fine if we forget what it is. But
I don't remember.
We'll have to watch back the last episode because it's somewhere. It's somewhere. It's definitely something that I might not be entirely confident in. But we will talk about that at the end when we talk about tomorrow night.
I hope MVP joins in the fight and pins Drew McIntyre, and then MVP has the title.
Mark, if that happens, I will probably pass out on camera. I won't even be able to take a shot. I'll probably sob so hard my brain loses oxygen and I just fall on the ground.
Imagine loving a man that loses to MVP.
I'll still love him. I'll still love him. Anyways, let's finish this off before we talk about tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So we had our last match of the night. Definitely one of my favorite matches, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm torn. We had Io Shirai versus Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley, and it ended how I wanted it to, sort of.
A little disappointing ending, to be honest.
Yeah, I had two predictions going into this, where either Io pins Rhea, getting Charlotte out of the title and then winning herself the title, or vice versa, Rhea pinning Io. One or the other. One of them winning, I guess. And Charlotte not winning. Or I kind of thought in my head the way it would work would be Charlotte beating up Io Shirai, because in their friendship, Rhea always seemed to be like a little more dominant. So I thought like, oh, Charlotte would be beating up Io, and then Rhea would come in and like kind of save Io, and together they'd work to defeat Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair did end up getting defeated by Io Shirai, who I think Io
won.
Yeah, Io pinned Ripley, which I guess it sort of worked out how I thought it would, but
Charlotte had Rhea in a figure four, and then Io jumped off the turnbuckle onto Rhea Ripley and pinned her. We all thought she was dead.
Yeah.
Noggin. Yeah, Io landed right on Rhea's head. But it's just like how Drake Maverick won or got to the finals of the Cruiserweight Championship just by jumping onto somebody who's already being pinned.
But to be fair, it's a little different because at least Io did something.
Io did pin her, but also she didn't Drake get Maverick, her in that position.
But Drake saw someone being pinned and was like, oh, and like landed on top of them just like by rolling over. Io at least jumped from somewhere and did something. Burned a couple calories in the process. But Drake pinned the guy through like just rolling onto his side. I kind of thought Charlotte was going to lose from the get-go.
Yeah.
One thing I really appreciated at least was going into it last Wednesday, they had sort of like a background video on all three of them. I don't think Io had one that was very in-depth. I think Io's was just sort of a very cinematic kind of trailer almost. But Rhea, hers was kind of a day in the life of her waking up at 5:30 in the morning, which I think that solidified my crush on her, because I was like, oh my god, you have like a schedule. Damn. Okay. But she spent so much time talking about how she didn't want to lose because she had finished 2019 on such a high note, and 2020 started so horribly and continued to be so bad for her.
With WrestleMania.
Yeah, with losing her title to Charlotte. So that alone kind of like made me feel affectionate, I guess, or like sympathetic. Um, and then Charlotte also had hers where she was talking about how like they like will chant like "you don't go here," and she was like, "Well, I built NXT pretty much like this. I was one of the first classes out of NXT," and I appreciated that they did that because going into this whole fight, it was sort of just Charlotte wants to fight both of them. They were best friends, and then Rhea kind of overstepped her boundaries, and Io got upset at her, and then they started fighting, which is a very typical WWE female character storyline where it's like, oh, they were best friends, and then they turned on each other, and now it's a cat fight.
Yeah.
Which I don't like, because sometimes women have motivations that aren't just fighting with their friends.
It's unoriginal. Too.
Yeah. And it just sort of like kind of plays into the male fantasy, I think, of seeing women fight each other. So I appreciated that they finally were like, here's like a real personable motivation for at least two of the characters, and even Io's, as cinematic as it was, I think, because I don't remember it off the top of my head now.
Me neither.
But as cinematic as it was, she still sounded determined. It wasn't, she was like, well, Rhea hurt my feelings, so now I'm coming to the NXT Takeover to just feel better about myself. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked that they had that, but then it made it very difficult for me to know who I wanted to see win.
Yeah.
That being said, though, Charlotte, who has gone into every single fight so far, like guns a-blazing, immediately pushed out. Like immediately was like, jumps out of the ring.
She was being opportunistic. Which she took advantage of it when she attacked Rhea from behind.
With the stick?
No, that was later on. I'm talking about like immediately. Like she jumped out, then Io and Rhea had a little conflict, and then Charlotte just came up behind and took advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where they finally used the set, and Charlotte threw Io through the window, and it was the most disappointing thing we ever saw because the window just opened up. It just opened up like a little doggy door.
It was like they hadn't pinned those like panes down.
And then Io just like sunk in and just fell into.
It was very sad. You wanted to see something break. And to be fair,
Yeah.
The screen did break when Io fell into it.
The screen broke, but that was definitely like some PA in the back just hit a button and had it go to static.
At least you did get to see Rhea throw that potted plant, which...
That was the most set destruction we got.
And that was... Okay, to be fair, no. Johnny Gargano getting thrown into plexiglass was set destruction.
Yeah, but not, like, unique set destruction. I wanted to see the house come down.
But it was also the fight where we did get to see someone use the set
Yeah.
to their advantage, because Io jumped up on top of the front door that they had up there onto both Rhea and Charlotte, which was pretty cool. No one had done that yet, shockingly.
That was great. We were a little disappointed about Charlotte's entrance, though, because she came out of the garage.
And not the front door. Charlotte's like supposed to be the center of attention in NXT. She's the queen. Why is she going out through the garage?
She should have had, like, a ref open the door for her.
Yeah, like, and a lovely little man just being like, oh, please enter, Miss Flair. Like, that would have been cool. But she comes through the garage? Like,
I don't know.
We also did see Rhea Ripley, another very similar to Tommaso Ciampa, pulling Karrion Kross through the ropes. Rhea Ripley flipped out of the ring and landed on her hands. I don't know if you remember that, but she jumped out. I think she was going after Io. She jumped out in an attempt to tackle her, but Io moved, and she landed with like her hand, like at least one of her hands, kind of like this.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
that's like that's a way to catch yourself in stunts. You use your hands to then push yourself into a roll.
As someone who's 24, and when it's cold, my knuckles get achy. the idea of falling out of a ring and landing with the only shock absorption being my knuckles, that sounds like the absolute biggest nightmare for me.
Mm-hmm.
But one nice thing about this fight, one good thing, some good news, in the wise words of John Krasinski.
Rest in peace.
God bless. We got a lot of really solid hits during this fight. Rhea Ripley's punches were not great. Rhea kicked Charlotte Flair in the teeth, and
yes.
It sounded real as hell. And also when Charlotte smacked her in the throat, and it didn't make the smacking sound, but rather a cupped noise, and I was like,
one of my favorite hits was when Charlotte was sitting on the ground on the mat, and Rhea runs up, drop kicks her, and then lands back on her feet. Normally, if you drop kick somebody, you're down too. You're not standing back up, but she landed on her feet, and that was super impressive. And then shortly after that, Io drop kicked Charlotte again. Mm-hmm. That was great. Anything involving drop kicks, I'm a huge fan of.
If I could have someone teach me to do a drop kick, like a claymore or a brogue kick, I would probably be happy for the rest of my life. I think that's the one thing I want to learn how to do is go from standing to sideways in the air, and if I can make it, I want to be able to do the Aleister Black cross-leg sit down afterwards. Just, that's all I want.
I don't think Aleister can even do that.
I think he might be able to. We'll find out tomorrow night. But that was really cool. I do really enjoy seeing drop kicks, and Rhea Ripley's body is undeniably strong.
Mm-hmm.
She's got one of those bodies. She's got a very, going back to Sonya Deville, she's got a very Sonya Deville kind of body where it's broad.
Yeah.
And it's built. And I think that's another thing that I really like about the female wrestlers that they have outside of Dana Brooke.
Dana Brooke, yeah.
Not a lot of the female wrestlers have, as you like to talk about, show muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see a female wrestlers that kind of look like a person, and then punch someone, you're like, oh, you're more than that. You're more than a person.
Yeah, you have the really skinny women's wrestlers like the Alexa Bliss. And
Carmella.
Yeah, and then you have the stocky women's wrestlers like Nikki Cross. Then you have the really well-built wrestlers like Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley.
Charlotte's a pinnacle of fitness, honestly.
Yeah.
The way her body is built is stunning. And the thing is that there's some men in wrestling that have kind of I can't say unhealthy because obviously they're healthy if they're doing this.
Mm.
But just a thicker physique. They don't look like bodybuilders, I guess, like Otis. And to a lesser extent, kind of Seth Rollins he isn't carved out.
Keith Lee.
I'm going for a less obvious example. But Seth Rollins isn't carved. He isn't Bobby Lashley,
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan, where it's nice to see a body that you're this isn't what I would say is the guy I'm gonna see lifting weights at the gym.
Yeah,
but I know that they can still punch me. It's
not just six packs and veins that you're seeing.
Right. And I think that's why I like a lot of the women wrestlers, because they don't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
They look like me or like anyone else on the street, but at the same time, they can do what Rhea Ripley did, where she drop kicked someone and landed on her toes.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, Charlotte also caned Rhea and Io.
Cane. Using the sword.
I know you told me that it shouldn't hurt that much, but it looks like it hurts like a bitch.
Yeah, I've used those kind of swords before. For those who don't know, it's those bamboo swords, the ones that they show samurais training with in movies. I've used them before during martial arts. They're hollow on the inside. They're a lot I guess they kind of work like springs. How there's just thin layers to it that are spaced out. They're meant to practice with, so they don't really hurt, but when you hit somebody with it, it slaps. Because you're still hitting them with bamboo at the end of the day. or balsa or whatever it's made out of.
If it's balsa, then that's fine. It probably isn't balsa. Balsa's soft as hell.
I just know that everything basically in martial arts is made out of balsa or bamboo.
Is that what when they chop those blocks of wood in half, is that balsa wood?
Wood in martial arts is always balsa. Anything else is too hard to break through. And
Okay.
yeah.
All right. As someone who has used wood a lot before, and I know the hardness of woods, that makes me feel a lot better.
You want to know another fun fact? Have you seen martial artists break through like bricks?
Mm-hmm.
Those, they're separated by very thin pieces of wood, so they're not just like stacked on top of each other. So you're breaking through each individually rather than the whole stack. And then they're kind of aerated. Each brick is like aerated with holes in them, kind of like a sponge. So they break a whole lot easier.
So I probably could do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not really about strength, it's just how you position your body and your technique and everything.
Maybe like my journey to happiness is gonna be me figuring out how to do martial arts and then becoming a wrestler. I think that's where it's gonna be.
You could be like Matt Riddle.
I have very good core strength and I'm very strong.
And you've
maybe.
got great hair, just like Matt Riddle.
I was gonna say I'm scrappy, but thank you. The one thing that's not gonna help me, in fact, might hurt me more. Considering Rhea Ripley grabbed Charlotte Flair by her hair to drag her out of the ring.
She grabbed her by her arm, but her arm was in her hair.
One way or another.
But I mean, WWE loves their long-haired men and women because you can whip it around easily.
See, the thing is, when you grow up with a sister, hair pulling, you learn what it feels like very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who has had a sister pull her hair very tightly out of fighting, I don't want anyone touching it. This is my hair. No one touches my hair. But as we mentioned, Io Shirai Charlotte got Rhea into a figure 4 or a figure 8. The announcers cannot agree on what that's called.
It's a figure 4.
I've heard figure 8 way more though, so I don't know.
I think it's just because figure 8 rolls off the tongue a lot easier, especially when you're commentating a fight.
But I also feel like a figure 4, like, you can do that with your legs. So you would do the figure 4 to hold someone else's legs in a figure 4 position, so then it would be a figure 8. Because it's 2 4s.
I mean, that makes sense, or it's 4 legs, so therefore it's a figure 4.
My brain turned off for 5 seconds. I was like, there's not 4 legs involved. But Flair got Rhea into a figure 4, and then Io Shirai kind of seized the moment by jumping from the top buckle onto Rhea's head, which she looked fine afterwards, but for a moment we were all sitting there like, okay.
Yeah.
And thus she took the NXT Women's Championship belt, which at the end of the day, as much as I was kind of rooting for Rhea Ripley because I love her and I fell in love with her story, I am kind of excited to see what happens to Charlotte now that she doesn't have the title.
Yeah.
I think that's really big. It's a very big kind of like time to recalculate move. And I think that once she does recalculate, she's going to come back to NXT like with a vengeance because they're saying she doesn't go here and stuff like that. And she's like, I built here.
They might turn her full heel.
Maybe. Or maybe she's going to end up getting that, is it Matt Stone or something? Isn't that the poor schmuck's name that he was the manager for someone and now he's just depressed because she left him behind.
Oh, yes, the guy who was like weirdly rubbing his fingers on the NXT sign.
He's so sad. He
had like one lens of his glasses popped out. Was like just scratching his body. It was weird.
I feel bad for him. I love him so much, and he just got abandoned in the thick of it. And it's like, And the only person he has left is Aliyah, and she is not doing anything for anyone right now.
Yeah.
But that was our entire NXT takeover. And I wasn't thrilled by it, but it is NXT after all. You know,
Yeah. It had, the highlights of it were great, but there were a lot of just not main event material fights.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, that is also kind of what NXT is about, is that it's sort of the training grounds for people.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't... Like, if I felt this way after a WrestleMania, or if I felt this way after...
Money in the Bank.
If I feel this way after Backlash, that's a bigger issue.
You might...
If I feel this way after Backlash, it's a bigger issue. But right now, because it is NXT and it is, again, their training grounds, more or less, and where a lot of the young wrestlers come up from, like Matt Riddle, I feel better knowing that they're supposed to go through this. They're supposed to kind of feel inexperienced, and we're supposed to feel like they're inexperienced, I think.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the argument of, what was your fight of the night?
Do you want to start with fight of the night or fighter of the night?
It's up to you.
Let's start with fighter, because I feel like fight of the night is something we want to lead into more. I think my fighter of the night is probably Keith Lee, because when you watch him fight, when he lands a hit, it is satisfying. When he smacked Gargano into the barrier, that was satisfying. Every single hit he had was satisfying. It was loud, it was strong, it felt real. There, at no point was I like iffy on any of his hits.
Okay. I definitely liked watching Keith Lee tonight. There were some times though where, like, and I know that this was like supposed to be part of it because he has a scratched cornea, quote unquote. Dr. Johnny Gargano initially stuck keys into his eyes last Wednesday. But with that said, I kind of think my fighter of the night, maybe I'm biased, probably Finn Balor.
Not Dexter Lumis.
If Dexter Lumis had been there for more than a couple of seconds, maybe. Check back in next Wednesday and we'll see.
Yeah.
He's always my artist of the night, but I think it was Finn, Fergal, if you will.
Oh God.
We can call him Fergie. I really enjoyed watching him. I think he took a lot of really serious hits. There was a lot of points in that match where I kind of sat back thinking, like, oh, he's not gonna get this. As much as, like, I really thought he was going to, he's not. And as much as I like Drew McIntyre kicking out at the 1 count, I really like also watching someone kick out, like, as the referee's hand is going down for the 3 count. And they're like, no, not yet. And that's what a lot of Finn's fight was tonight. I think he it really came down to the wire with him, and you could tell because they were both exhausted, and he put in so much fight and so much effort.
Yeah.
Even after getting absolutely destroyed by Damian Priest. So I think that's gonna have to be my fighter of the night.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It definitely feel like he put up more of like a struggle than like Keith Lee. I was also surprised by Shotzi. Again, I forget her last name. Blackheart. Shotzi Blackheart.
I didn't want to like her, but she really she pulled me in.
Yeah. But I will agree with you. Finn Balor is our fighter of the night. Now on to the fight of the night. I'll let you go first this time.
I don't want to go first. So I think my fight of the night is kind of tied, I think, right now. Again, going back to Finn and Damian Priest, I really liked that fight. I thought that was a really strong introductory conflict, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from like the end of being like a filmmaker type person, I think when there's a good conflict, and I don't feel like I've had to add up all of like the, oh, he won this time and he won this time and he won this time, so now he's gonna win this time.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to add all that up, and I appreciated that. So I do love watching a hard won fight, and I think he really gave us that tonight. I felt like passion when he was fighting. I didn't just feel the character. I didn't just feel the storyline. But that being said, I also really enjoyed the Adam Cole Velveteen Dream fight. And that's mostly for the theatrics of it. Because with Adam Cole actually shedding blood, which was not expected,
Mm-hmm.
and Dexter Lumis, and the whole backlot brawl, like no rules aspect, plus Velveteen Dream losing.
Yeah.
Probably that's another one I'm gonna have to say. I can't choose between the two, but those are my two favorites of this evening.
Yeah, that's the Adam Cole Velveteen Dream fight is my favorite of the night. Because you have that same struggle that the Finn and Damian Priest fight had. Like, because the whole time I was thinking that Adam Cole lost. Once he landed on that windshield, I thought he lost.
I did too.
But then he brought it back, beat Velveteen Dream, thank God. And then you had the added elements of when Velveteen Dream was searching for him. You had great entrances. You had the Undisputed Era showing up, throwing all the chairs in the ring. You had Dexter Lumis with his whole appearance.
He had been there the whole time.
His whole appearance was the fight of the night for me. Just the pulling the chair under and just sticking his head out, that made that the fight of the night. And then you add on Adam Cole winning and beating the odds. And then seeing him after the fight, after he'd won, felt a lot nicer than when Finn Balor won. At least his reaction. So yeah, that's my fight of the night.
I think also it was a very like throwback to classic WWE, because there was blood, there were chairs, there was theatrics, there was a surprise entrance from someone who had been sitting under the ring the entire damn time apparently.
You had the Uber.
Yeah, like, we had cheesy jokes, which, frankly, I hated the Uber joke because I made that joke before they did. But it felt like classic WWE. And while I'd expect that at, like, WrestleMania, I definitely expected that at... I definitely didn't expect that, actually, rather, at an NXT pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, like... I assume Triple H has a lot to say about how this all happens, and that felt like genuine somebody who has seen WrestleMania, has seen the best of WrestleMania, and said, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So I think we can agree that was the fight of the night tonight.
Yeah, and also the fact that it wasn't like the headliner fight, because the triple threat that was supposed to be the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like they put a lot more effort into this fight. And, like, just, like, the unique environment, the crowd and all their cars.
And there's just enough build-up.
Yeah.
Especially because Dexter Lumis kind of seemed a little self-involved in a sense that, like, he didn't say, I'm gonna kidnap the Undisputed Era because they are being mean to my friend Velveteen Dream. He was like, no, I'm gonna kidnap them because I want to kidnap them and I want to murder them. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about Velveteen Dream's fight. I care about Dexter Lumis's fight. So yeah. I really like that.
And I was a little worried before going into it of like Dexter Lumis and Velveteen Dream kind of working together and being like a tag team kind of. And I like the fact that they weren't, and it was just like, it was a Velveteen Dream fight where Dexter Lumis showed up.
And got what he wanted.
Yeah. had nothing to do with the fight besides just kidnapping the Undisputed Era, which I cannot wait to see what happens to them.
I'm excited for that, for sure. But I think that wraps up our wrap-up of NXT TakeOver.
We've got our fighter of the night, which is Finn Balor, and did I say fight of the night? Or we've got our fighter of the night, which is Finn Balor, and we've got our fight of the night, which was Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream, which I was not expecting to like as much as I did.
I think we wouldn't have liked it as much if Adam Cole had lost, which it really looked like he was about to.
Yeah. Replace Velveteen Dream with anyone else, and that would easily, like, no question of a doubt, be my fight of the night.
If Velveteen Dream was replaced by one of the members of Breezango, where would you go with that?
And still have the Dexter Lumis appearance, that would be the fight of the century.
Just completely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So we are just entering our, I want to say basically 2 weeks of wrestling gold, because we are going to be watching Raw tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
We've got NXT again on Wednesday, so 1 day of rest between. Friday night we got SmackDown. Sunday we have Backlash, and then again the full schedule, and then we have to go back to living our weekends like normal people that don't watch wrestling every other night. But I have to say, I'm really excited for Raw tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, first of all, finally getting to wear...
Oh, you're spoiling it. You're spoiling it.
I'm spoiling it, because I just got it. Look at it. It's amazing.
Clearly, she's a Bobby Lashley fan.
I would rather die. I am so excited, and my shirt finally came, and I'm going to wear it tomorrow night, because if there's one thing that we can all agree on, it's that the Claymore kick is the best move in wrestling.
You even agree it's stupid because of the countdown.
It's not stupid, it's just upsetting when he counts it, like when he, first of all, does the whole thing where he tells someone to stand up, and then he counts down once they're standing up, which is the worst time to start a move.
Mm-hmm.
And then misses. I can't stand it. I don't want him to count down. I just want him to Claymore kick someone, specifically me. That being said, I'm super excited. I'm going to wear my shirt tomorrow, and then ideally next Raw, I think, because I'll probably wear this for Backlash too, because I'm a Scotsman's whore. I will have my Seth Rollins shirt by then. So next Raw, we will have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited. I think we've got a lot of good stuff going into this week. And I think tomorrow's going to be interesting, because Raw doesn't do the same thing as NXT. NXT was like, you'll find out how the story ends when NXT TakeOver happens, but Raw's just kind of been like, do you want to see Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley yell at each other for 14 minutes? And I say yes. And they say, here you are. So
that wraps up the show. If you want to follow us on Twitter, our handles are in our little webcams. I'm Mark Milkdud. She is Eliza Elaine 23. There you go. If you joined late and you want to watch the beginning of this podcast, this will go up on YouTube tomorrow morning, along with the previous 2 days ago. The SmackDown post show went up yesterday, so watch that if you missed that, and stay tuned tomorrow for the Raw post show.
And every other night from here on out until next
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo! I'm excited.
All right. Don't forget to follow us, follow the stream, to keep in tune with all of our podcasts, because WWE sometimes does not like to end on time.
Almost never. Well, we will almost always try to be within 15 to 30 minutes of the ending of normally scheduled events like Raw, SmackDown, and NXT.
Mm-hmm.
But with some of the pay-per-view events, obviously, it just starts at a certain time. You kind of have to assume as things go on, but since our next pay-per-view is Backlash, we will try to keep you updated as much as possible on both of our Twitters, so that way you can kind of know when we're going to be back.
Yeah. Is your Twitter still private?
It is, because I'm trying to get a job with the WWE, and I don't want them to see my posts.
Okay. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow.